Hello, my lovely friends. Welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, I'm so happy you found this video because today I'm going to talk about something really important and personal, something that changed my life in the best way possible. The topic of this video is how I trained myself to speak English fast. Yes, you heard it right. I didn't go to a big English school. I didn't live abroad, and no one in my family speaks fluent English. But here I am, confidently speaking with you today, and I trained myself to do it. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it. No fancy methods, no expensive courses, just real, natural, daily practice that worked for me. So if you're someone who understands English but struggles to speak, or you feel nervous, shy, or stuck when you try to express yourself, this video is for you. Sit back, relax, and stay with me till the end. I promise you'll leave with something that will help you today, not someday. So let's go back a little. There was a time when I could read English well. I could even understand movies and YouTube videos. But when it came to speaking, oh my God, I would freeze. My heart would beat fast, my mouth would stay shut, and all those words in my head, they would disappear, gone, and it used to make me feel so embarrassed. I remember one time in college, our teacher asked us to give a short introduction in English. I stood up, looked around, and just said, "My name is," and my brain stopped working. I forgot even simple sentences. After that, I told myself, enough is enough. I have to speak English, not for exams, not to impress anyone, but for myself, for my confidence, for my growth, and because I was tired of feeling scared. And from that day, I started training myself. Yes, I use the word training because it's just like going to the gym. You don't become fit in one day, right? You have to show up again and again. You sweat, you fail, but you get better. That's exactly how I trained my brain and my mouth to speak English fast. Let me tell you how I did it, step by step, naturally. The first and most powerful thing I did was talking to myself. I know, it sounds a little weird at first, but I used to look in the mirror and speak to myself in English every day. I didn't care about grammar. I just said whatever came to my mind. For example, "Hi, good morning. Today, I have a lot of work. I need to go to college. I will meet my friend. I'm excited." Just basic stuff. I didn't use difficult words. I didn't force myself to sound perfect. My goal was simple: keep talking, no matter what. And slowly, I noticed my tongue started moving faster. My brain stopped hesitating. It became natural. The second thing I did was thinking in English. I trained my brain to stop translating from my native language. Because trust me, that's where we all get stuck. When you see a dog, don't think dog equals kuda or whatever word is in your language. Just think dog. That's it. Simple. If I was hungry, I didn't say in my head, "Mujhe bhook lagi hai" or "Main khana khaungi." I trained myself to think, "I'm hungry. I'll eat now." In the beginning, it was difficult, but slowly, my brain started catching it. Now, most of the time, I don't even realize I'm thinking in English. It just happens. The third thing I did was speaking with voice notes. This was a big game changer. Every night before sleeping, I opened my phone, hit the record button, and talked. Like an audio diary. I spoke about my day in English. Some days I said only 1 minute. Some days, 10 minutes. And guess what? I listened to those recordings the next day, not to judge myself, but to notice my mistakes, my speed, and my progress. Over time, I started noticing how fluent I was becoming. My speed increased, my vocabulary got better, and most importantly, I started sounding natural. Another big part of my training was surrounding myself with English all day. I changed my phone settings to English. I watched YouTube videos in English with subtitles. I followed Instagram accounts that teach English in a fun way. I listened to English music and sang along, even if I didn't get every word. I even started reading simple English storybooks out loud. This made English feel like a part of my life, not a subject. It wasn't something I studied, it was something I lived. That's the biggest secret, my friends. If you want to speak fast, stop studying and start living the language. Another trick I used is what I call 5-minute fluency drills. Every morning, I gave myself one topic, like my daily routine, or my best friend, or why I love coffee, and then, for 5 minutes, I would speak about it in English without stopping. Even if I didn't know a word, I used another word or explained it. For example, if I forgot the word umbrella, I said, the thing that saves me from rain. That's how we build fluency, not by using big words, but by not stopping when we forget a word. Another important part of my journey was making mistakes. Yes, I made hundreds of mistakes. I said wrong things. I used the wrong tense. Sometimes people laughed. Sometimes I laughed at myself. But I never stopped speaking. I never let those mistakes stop me. Because here's a truth nobody tells you. Fluency comes from speaking, not from being correct all the time. The more I spoke, the more confident I became. I didn't wait to become perfect. I just started. And trust me, that's the secret. Start messy, speak broken English, but don't stop. Let me also tell you something that helped me emotionally. I stopped comparing myself. I used to watch people on YouTube who spoke English perfectly and feel like, oh my God, I can never be like them. But then I realized they also started somewhere. So I made a promise to myself. I will focus on my journey, my speed, my growth. Even if I improve 1% every day, I will reach my goal. And honestly, this mindset helped me speak English not just fast, but fearlessly. Now I know some of you are wondering, how long did it take you? Let me be honest, it didn't happen in 1 month, but it didn't take years either. In just 3 months of daily speaking, I started noticing big changes, and after 6 months, I could talk to anyone in English without fear. Today, I even help others speak English with confidence. So, yes, it's possible. And if I can do it, I promise, so can you. Let me quickly summarize what I did to train myself. Talk to myself daily in the mirror. Thought in English instead of translating. Recorded voice notes to track progress. Surrounded myself with English all day. Did 5-minute fluency drills every morning. Embraced mistakes and kept speaking. Focused on progress, not perfection. After sharing my initial methods, I want to go a little deeper and be more transparent about the ups and downs along the way. Sometimes I felt like I was making incredible progress, and other times I'd question if I was even moving forward at all. But every day provided a new lesson, and I started noticing subtle changes in how I interacted with the language in various parts of my life. I remember vividly a day when I decided to switch up my routine. I was tired of only practicing by myself. So, I set a goal. I would speak English in real-life situations, even if it was a small step. I visited a local coffee shop and ordered in English. At first, my voice trembled as I said, "Hi, may I have a cup of coffee, please?" But the barista smiled and replied in clear, slow English, making it a fun, stress-free encounter. That small interaction built up my confidence in ways I couldn't have imagined. It wasn't about getting everything perfect. It was about taking a step outside of my comfort zone and learning from every little interaction. One of the key insights I learned is that language is not just about words or grammar rules, it's about connection. When you speak, you're sharing a part of yourself. I began to treat every conversation as a chance to express emotions, humor, and even my unique personality. This meant that beyond just striving for fluency, I also focused on keeping the conversation light, engaging, and natural. I noticed that when I allowed myself to be vulnerable, people responded warmly. Even if I stumbled over my words, the genuine effort was recognized and appreciated. This connection, this human connection, became one of the most effective motivators in my journey. In the early stages of my transformation, I also immersed myself in language groups and online forums. I joined Facebook groups and language exchange websites where people from all over the world shared their language struggles and successes. These communities not only provided practical advice, but they also gave me a sense of belonging. We laughed together about mispronunciations, celebrated small victories, and most importantly, provided each other with constant encouragement. I remember a particular thread where a fellow learner wrote about mixing up simple words that ended up in funny sentences. Reading his post, I realized I wasn't the only one struggling with these challenges, and that understanding made my own mistakes seem less intimidating. Another breakthrough moment for me was when I started using technology in my practice. I began using speech recognition apps, which not only recorded my voice, but also provided real-time feedback on pronunciation and clarity. Even though the apps were not perfect and often failed to understand me correctly, they pushed me to refine my pronunciation. I set aside a few minutes each day to practice reading aloud from articles, songs, even poetry. Over time, hearing the improved version of my own voice on these recordings was a powerful reinforcer. It was proof of my progress, however incremental it seemed. There was a time I tried something a little unconventional. I immersed myself in a complete English-only day. I turned off the subtitles on English movies, blocked access to my native language news, and even informed my friends about my challenge so they wouldn't slip into our common language during the day. While I was nervous at first, this method really forced me to think, react, and speak in English in real time. I stumbled a lot, but with every error came a learning point. I gradually built a mental dictionary of alternative expressions, making my speech more fluid and spontaneous. I also discovered the magic of storytelling. Whenever I practiced my English, I didn't just recite sentences. I told stories about my day, my dreams, my challenges, and even my silly mishaps. Storytelling allowed me to use a wider range of vocabulary and to express complex emotions. I started keeping a digital journal on my smartphone, where every evening I would record a mini story of my day in English. Sometimes it was a recount of a funny conversation. Other times it was a more introspective look at how I handled my fears. Over weeks and months, these voice diaries became precious records of my growth. A reminder that language learning is as much an emotional journey as it is a cognitive one. One particularly transformative experience occurred when I decided to join a local book club that met weekly to discuss English novels. I was terrified at first. Participating in a conversation where everyone seemed articulate and confident was daunting. But I prepared by reading short summaries and practicing key phrases. On the day of the meeting, I managed to share a few thoughts about the book. To my surprise, the group warmly welcomed my input, and the conversation flowed naturally. That experience taught me that genuine communication transcends grammatical perfection. The lively discussion and mutual respect among the group members made me realize that language is a bridge, not a barrier. Another hurdle I had to overcome was the fear of speaking in public. At first, even a small presentation in front of a friend or two was nerve-wracking. So, I organized mini speech sessions at home. I would record myself giving a short talk on any topic, ranging from my favorite movie scene to a new recipe I was excited about. Listening back to these recordings, I not only noticed areas for improvement, but also celebrated my progress. I experimented with tone, pauses, facial expressions, and gestures. Over time, these practices helped me build an authentic presentation style. What I found was that once I embraced my imperfections, my public speaking became not only more relaxed, but even enjoyable. Sharing personal anecdotes with passion and conviction eventually made a significant difference. I began incorporating fun activities into my learning routine. For instance, I started mimicking dialogues from popular TV shows and movies. I'd pause the scene, repeat the lines, and try to match the emotion and intonation. This exercise was both entertaining and incredibly practical. It helped me internalize natural speech patterns, slang, idioms, and even humor. Soon enough, I began to understand that every piece of media I consumed was not just content, but a valuable lesson in linguistics and culture. It helped me recognize the nuances in tone, context, and body language, skills that are as important as speaking correctly. While practicing, I set realistic expectations for myself. At times, I would confront moments of self-doubt, thinking that I wasn't progressing fast enough. In those moments, I reminded myself of the progress I had already made. I kept a victory log, a small journal, where I noted every milestone, no matter how small. Whether it was overcoming hesitation in a conversation or correctly using a new idiom, I celebrated it. This log grew into a testament of my journey, each entry a reminder that every step, however imperfect, brought me closer to fluency. Eventually, as I became more comfortable with my skills, I started engaging in longer, more nuanced conversations with native speakers. I sought out language exchange meetups and even scheduled one-on-one sessions with mentors who could critique my pronunciation and help me fine-tune my accent. These sessions were sometimes challenging as they uncovered areas I needed to work on, but the constructive feedback always motivated me to push harder. I learned that embracing feedback, even when it stung, was integral to growth. I realized that language learning is a lifetime journey and that there's always room for improvement. There was also the cultural aspect to consider. Language isn't just words and grammar. It's a reflection of the culture, history, and mindset of its speakers. I made it a point to understand the cultural context behind common phrases and expressions. I watched documentaries, read blogs about cultural practices, and even tried to cook traditional recipes from English-speaking countries. Every new cultural insight opened up a window into understanding how and why people speak the way they do. It enriched my vocabulary and deepened my appreciation of the language, and eventually, these experiences started reflecting in my speech. I wasn't just speaking words, I was conveying emotions, cultural references, and even humor. Naturally, there were setbacks along the way. I remember times when I'd get frustrated with my progress. One day, after spending hours practicing and still feeling clumsy with my words, I sat down in front of my mirror and allowed myself to feel disappointed. But in that moment, I learned the importance of self-compassion. I reminded myself that learning a language is not linear. It's a series of peaks and valleys. Those moments of frustration eventually taught me resilience. They reminded me that every error was a stepping stone and that perseverance was key. I started to see mistakes not as failures, but as learning opportunities. I began to laugh them off, and over time, these mistakes became a badge of honor, a symbol of my continuous effort to improve. One of the most unexpected benefits of training myself to speak English fast was the boost in my overall confidence. I noticed that the courage I built through language practice began to influence other areas of my life. I became more willing to try new things, approach new people, and engage in activities that once intimidated me. My journey to fluency wasn't isolated. It brought a broader shift in how I perceived challenges and growth. I became more resilient, more adaptable, and more open to risks. It was as if every time I conquered a hurdle in English, I was equipping myself with the power to face other obstacles head on. Of course, none of this happened overnight. The transformation was gradual. There were days when I would be full of energy, speaking nonstop in English, and days when I couldn't even gather the courage to say a few words aloud. But I learned to keep going regardless. Consistency was my mantra. I set small, manageable goals every day, whether it was a 5-minute conversation with myself, a quick chat with a friend, or even commenting on a social media post in English. These small bursts of effort added up. Over months, they turned into substantial progress that I could see and feel. My pronunciation sharpened, my vocabulary expanded, and my thoughts began to flow more naturally in English. I also experimented with different environments to enhance my learning. Sometimes I'd practice during early mornings when the world was still quiet, allowing me to concentrate deeply without distractions. Other times, I'd challenge myself in busier settings, forcing my brain to process English amidst background noise and uncertainty. Each environment provided its own set of challenges, gradually making my fluency more adaptable to different real-life situations. This adaptability is what eventually helped me feel prepared for any conversation, whether it was a casual chat with a stranger or a more formal business meeting. One strategy that I want to share that made a huge difference was the art of shadowing. Shadowing is where you listen to a recording of someone speaking English and try to mimic not just their words, but their rhythm, intonation, and emotion. I started with my favorite podcasts and TED Talks. I'd play a short segment, pause, and then try to repeat it as accurately as possible. It was like exercising my vocal muscles. Initially, it felt awkward, and I often found myself stumbling over words. But over time, I noticed that my ability to pick up the natural flow of the language improved dramatically. The act of shadowing not only honed my pronunciation, but also helped me internalize the natural pauses and emphases that make speech compelling. In addition to shadowing, I frequently watched live interviews and talk shows. These formats are less scripted and more spontaneous. Although it was challenging to follow the rapid back and forth dialogue at first, over time, I learned how native speakers interact. The informal language, the colloquial phrases, and even the common interruptions that naturally occur. Observing these exchanges in real time taught me the art of conversation dynamics. I learned how to insert a question into a flowing dialogue, how to react to unexpected turns in discussion, and most importantly, how to maintain the momentum of a conversation without overthinking every single word. Sometimes my journey also meant embracing silence. Yes, silence. Those awkward moments when you search for the right word and nothing comes to mind. I learned that silence is not a gap in conversation, but a natural pause. Over time, I got comfortable with those small breaks. I practiced techniques like slowly rephrasing what I wanted to say, or sometimes even asking a clarifying question to give myself time to process. This acceptance of silence, rather than being intimidated by it, enriched my conversation skills. I began to see pauses not as failures, but as a natural part of human interaction. I also made it a habit to re-watch my older recordings now and then. At first, the changes were subtle. A few words here, a smoother tone there. But as months turned into a year, the difference was undeniable. Hearing myself speak from the past reminded me just how far I had come. It was a moment of validation for all those days when I doubted myself. This practice became a ritual, a personal celebration of my growth, and a constant reminder that progress, however slow, is progress nonetheless. And then there were moments when I got to share my experiences with others who were on the same journey. I recall hosting small online meetups where we would discuss our challenges, exchange useful techniques, or even role-play different scenarios. I cherished these sessions because they reaffirmed that learning is a communal effort. Each success of someone else felt like a success for the whole group. We laughed over shared idioms, commiserated over common mispronunciations, and celebrated every little step of improvement. This sense of community helped me realize that the path to fluency isn't walked alone. When you support and learn from each other, every obstacle seems easier to overcome. Over time, I expanded my repertoire beyond just speaking. I started writing short essays and even creative stories in English. I'd challenge myself with topics like my wildest dream or a day in a parallel universe. This creative writing exercise pushed me to explore different sentence structures, metaphorical expressions, and even humor in English. Writing, like speaking, is a form of self-expression that enriches your relationship with the language. It forces you to consider how different words fit together to evoke certain feelings or pictures. It was fascinating to see the interplay between writing and speaking. A strong writer often becomes a more articulate speaker. Reflecting on this entire journey, I understand that what helped me most wasn't a single revolutionary method. It was the combination of many small techniques, consistently applied over time. The blend of self-talk, live interactions, technological tools, cultural immersion, and creative exploration enriched my language practice beyond what any single method could have achieved. I experimented, I failed, I celebrated, and every experience compounded into a powerful learning curve. Today, as I converse with you, every word and every sentence is backed by countless moments of practice and raw, real experience. I know that every learner's journey is unique. What worked for me might need some tweaking for you. The beauty of language is its flexibility. Tailor your approach. Sometimes focus on conversation. Other times, dive into listening or reading. Mix and match methods until you discover what resonates with you. And remember, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. What matters is that you keep moving forward, step by small step. To anyone watching who's struggling right now, I want you to know this. Believe in your potential. Even on days when you feel like nothing is clicking, trust that every moment of practice is laying a brick in the foundation of your success. Celebrate those small victories. The sentence you managed to string together, the conversation where you didn't hesitate, or even the moment when you simply thought in English without a conscious effort. These are the building blocks of fluency. Over time, they merge into a beautiful, confident expression of who you are. As I wrap up this extended share of my journey, I realize that my path to speaking English fast wasn't just a series of techniques. It was a transformation of mindset. I learned to look at language not as a rigid structure full of rules, but as a living art form that grows with every interaction, every mistake, and every breakthrough. I learned that perfection is overrated, and authenticity is what connects us on a deeper level. Your voice, with all its imperfections, is unique and powerful. I'm not saying the journey is easy, nor that it is without challenges. There will always be moments when you feel overwhelmed, when the words seem to hide just out of reach. But know that these moments are temporary. Every challenge is an opportunity to learn something new about yourself and the language you're falling in love with. So, if you're looking for a sign to start or to keep pushing forward in your English language journey, this is it. There's no magic bullet, only consistent effort and a willingness to embrace the unknown. So take that step. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Record that voice note. Join that conversation. And if you stumble, simply laugh and try again. Because every time you speak, you're not just training your brain to form sentences, you're training your heart to communicate, your mind to think flexibly, and your soul to connect with the world. As I look back now, every single day of practice was like a chapter in my personal story, a story written word by word, sentence by sentence, and conversation by conversation. I discovered that the journey toward fluency isn't just about acquiring a new language. It's a holistic transformation that affects every area of your life. Over time, I started applying the lessons I learned from practicing English to other challenges. I began to see every obstacle as an opportunity to learn, a chance to improve my communication skills, and even a way to grow emotionally. Finding my authentic voice through storytelling, one of the most rewarding breakthroughs, was when I truly embraced the art of storytelling. Storytelling isn't simply recounting events. It's about sharing experiences in a way that connects, that captures the nuances of emotion. I remember one quiet evening when I decided to record a story about an embarrassing yet funny moment from my childhood. I set up my phone, took a deep breath, and let the story flow naturally. I stumbled over a few words at first, but then, as I recounted the vivid details, the sound of laughter echoing in the background, the warmth of the sun that day, I began to relax. The act of sharing something personal in English, without fear of judgment, taught me how much authenticity could propel my fluency forward. I realized that every slip of the tongue was just part of my unique narrative. Embracing technology as a learning companion, my toolkit continued to expand with technological aids that transformed my approach entirely. I started using language apps with speech recognition features that could pinpoint exactly where my pronunciation was off, offering detailed corrections. These apps sometimes felt like having a patient tutor who never got tired of listening. I'd set aside quiet moments in my day to practice with these tools, repeating phrases until my mouth could effortlessly shape the words. There was a time when I recorded a short monologue, and while the app initially highlighted a few errors, every correction pointed me toward improvement. Over weeks, I saw measurable progress in my enunciation and clarity. It was incredibly motivating to see, in real time, how every session made my speech smoother and faster. Expanding my horizons through interactive conversations. A pivotal moment in my learning journey was realizing that engaging with real people and not just recording voice notes or shadowing TV dialogues was where true fluency blossomed. I began attending local meetups, language exchange sessions, and even simple coffee shop conversations. There's something uniquely encouraging about speaking with someone who understands your struggles and celebrates your progress. I recall one memorable conversation in a cozy bookshop where I excitedly spoke about a novel I'd just finished reading. Even though I mixed up some words, the other person leaned in with genuine interest, asking follow-up questions and complimenting my effort. That interaction wasn't just a conversation, it became an affirmation that learning is not a solo endeavor, but a shared communal experience. Each dialogue built my confidence and chipped away at my fear of making mistakes. Overcoming the imposter syndrome. One of the tougher challenges on this journey was fighting the so-called imposter syndrome. I would often feel like I didn't truly belong in conversations with native speakers, like every mispronounced word might expose my imperfections. There were days I would compare myself to others and doubt my progress. But then I learned a profound lesson. Every expert was once a beginner. I started a personal mantra. Every mistake is a step forward. I kept this mantra written on a small card I carried in my purse. Whenever self-doubt crept in, I'd pull it out, read it, and remember that every single conversation, no matter how clumsy, was making me stronger. This mental shift wasn't immediate. It took time and persistence. But gradually, I noticed that I no longer shied away from opportunities just because I felt insecure. Instead, I embraced the learning curve with open arms, celebrating each victory, however small. The role of cultural immersion in language mastery. An often overlooked part of learning a language is immersing yourself in its cultural richness. I made it a point to explore the culture behind the language, be it through film, music, cuisine, or literature. On weekends, I'd watch classic English films and try to catch the cultural references woven into the dialogues. I'd listen to English music and even attempt to decipher the stories behind the lyrics. Once, I decided to cook a traditional dish from the UK, following an English recipe step by step. As I chopped vegetables and stirred the pot, I read the recipe out loud, savoring every moment of combining language with creativity. This kind of cultural engagement did more than just build vocabulary. It transformed my understanding of how native speakers think and express themselves. It created a bridge between words and context, making my speech not only faster, but more deeply informed by nuance and history. Developing a routine that caters to all aspects of communication, maintaining a balanced routine was key to my improvement. I structured my practice to cover speaking, listening, and even writing. A typical day might start with a 5-minute self-talk ritual in front of the mirror, where I'd greet myself in English and outline my plans for the day. Later, I'd dedicate time to listening to podcasts or watching English videos, making mental notes of interesting phrases or colloquial expressions. I also set a small window each evening to jot down thoughts or experiences in a digital journal. This writing exercise helped me put feelings and ideas into words without the pressure of live interaction. Over time, I realized that by integrating these different facets into my daily routine, I wasn't just learning English. I was living it in a comprehensive way that catered to every aspect of communication. Navigating real-life challenges with confidence. Real life is filled with challenges, and not every conversation is a stroll in the park. There were days when I encountered moments of misunderstanding, when cultural nuances created unexpected hurdles, or when rapid-fire exchanges left me momentarily speechless. One vivid memory that stands out is when I was once in an international work meeting. As the discussion moved swiftly, I couldn't keep up with every detail, and I felt my thoughts scrambling to catch up. Yet, instead of freezing, I learned to ask clarifying questions and even paraphrase what I'd understood. This not only bought me a few precious seconds to catch my breath, but also signaled to the other participants that I was actively engaged. With each such experience, I became more adept at handling pressure, quickly reorienting myself to grasp the conversation. The key wasn't to be perfect, but to participate, ask questions, and learn on the fly. Transformative moments of self-acceptance. Sometimes, the most transformative lessons came not from external practices, but from within. I learned to celebrate my uniqueness. Every accent, every pause, every quirky phrase was a part of who I was becoming. I began to see that authenticity in language was far more engaging than impeccably correct yet robotic speech. I started experimenting with my tone and inflection, allowing my natural personality to shine through. There were evenings when, after a particularly cathartic conversation, I'd sit quietly and reflect on all that had happened, on the laughs, the mistakes, and the unexpected moments of brilliance. Those moments of introspection anchored my progress in something deeply personal. They taught me that language is not merely a tool for communication, but an art of self-expression that evolves as much with our thoughts as with our vocabulary. Peer learning and giving back. As my fluency grew, I found enormous joy in sharing my journey with others. I began hosting online sessions, small virtual gatherings, where fellow learners could practice together. These sessions quickly turned into an exchange of ideas, a safe space to experiment with new expressions, and a celebration of collective progress. I'd guide others through exercises I once struggled with, like the infamous 5-minute fluency drill, or practicing shadowing techniques with dynamic dialogues from real-life interviews. There was a palpable sense of camaraderie in these discussions. In sharing our common challenges and triumphs, we all grew together. Teaching someone else not only reinforced my own learning, but ignited a passion for language in the people around me. It was a reminder that fluency is best achieved in a community, a group of people cheering each other on, where every stumble is met with gentle encouragement, and every success is celebrated as a win for everyone. Integrating mindfulness with language practice. Another unexpected but profound aspect of my journey was integrating mindfulness into my practice. I realized that my hesitations were often linked to inner turmoil, the anxieties of fear of failure, of judgment, or of not living up to my own expectations. In moments of quiet, I began to practice mindfulness meditation, allowing myself to be present without clinging to negative thoughts. I'd focus on my breathing and gently bring my focus back when my mind wandered. This practice of mindfulness wasn't directly about learning English, but it calmed my nerves, made my thoughts more organized, and gave me the serenity needed to engage confidently in conversation. Slowly, I noticed that my ability to process information in English became more fluid as my mind cleared away clutter. It was as if the silence within nurtured the words I wished to speak, allowing me to be less inhibited and more spontaneous. Reflecting on progress, a continuous celebration now, I want to share with you how I continuously track my progress and keep my motivation soaring high. Every month, I would sit down and listen to a recording from days past. I'd compare the hesitations, the mispronunciations, the pauses, all against the flow of my current speech. Sometimes the improvements were so subtle they could have been missed. Other times, they were dramatic breakthroughs that filled me with pride. These reflective sessions became my personal benchmarks, a mirror that showed me not only how far I'd come, but also reminded me that language learning is a journey with many layers. I even started keeping a milestone board where I'd pin notes like first conversation in English, spoke without pauses for 10 minutes, or understood a native speaker's joke in real time. Each note was a testament to my perseverance. On days when the progress felt slow, these milestones served as gentle reminders that every small step was worth celebrating. A journey that never truly ends, one of the most beautiful realizations of all was that learning English wasn't a destination, it was a journey with endless discoveries. Even though I now speak fluently and fast, I know that there is always room to refine, learn new slang, or embrace evolving cultural trends. The language keeps growing, and so does our ability to express ourselves within it. This mindset, this commitment to continuous learning, has become part of who I am. In every conversation, I now see an opportunity to try out something new, whether it's a novel expression or a playful twist in tone. I remind myself that the goal isn't to be perfect, but to be engaged, curious, and ever evolving. Advice for the road ahead. So, as we continue on this journey together, I'd like to leave you with a few personal pieces of advice that have helped me tremendously. Be consistent. Even on days when motivation is low, a little effort is enough to keep the momentum alive. A 5-minute exercise is better than nothing at all. Embrace mistakes. Every error is a golden chance to learn. Don't be afraid to try and fail. Your failures build the bridge to your success. Mix it up. Alternate between speaking, listening, writing, and reading. Each aspect of language reinforces the others. Live the language. Immerse yourself in it. Change your phone settings. Watch movies without subtitles. Or cook a recipe in English. Let the language be a part of your day-to-day life. Celebrate every victory. Keep a journal or a board of achievements. Remind yourself of every time you moved forward. It might seem small, but over time, these victories become a testament to your dedication. Stay curious. Ask questions. Whenever you encounter new phrases or idioms, look them up and try to understand their cultural context. Language is as much about history and people as it is about words. A final heartfelt message. I want you to know that this journey, with all its twists and turns, has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. It changed not just how I speak, but how I see the world. Every conversation in English has opened a new door, whether it's meeting someone from a different background, discovering a new perspective, or simply enjoying a good laugh over a shared joke. And through it all, I learned one core truth. Your voice matters. As you embark on or continue your own journey to speak English fast, remember that each word you utter, every conversation you engage in, is a step toward becoming a better version of yourself. Don't be discouraged by the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Instead, cherish every moment of growth, every awkward pause, and every spark of understanding that lights up your mind. So here we are, together in this incredible journey of self-improvement and language mastery. I'm excited for all the conversations we'll have, all the stories we'll share, and all the moments where you break free from hesitation and truly express your authentic self in English. Below is a comprehensive list of tips and tricks that I discovered along my journey to speak English fast. These techniques aren't one size fits all. They work best when mixed, matched, and adapted to your personal style. Whether you're just starting out or looking to shake up your routine, these tips can help boost your fluency and confidence in real-life conversations. 1. Talk to yourself everyday mirror practice. Stand in front of a mirror and speak to yourself in English. Don't worry about making mistakes. Let your ideas flow naturally. This builds both your speaking muscles and self-confidence. Stream of consciousness. Narrate your day, express your thoughts, or even describe what you see around you. The goal is to get comfortable verbalizing your internal dialogue without overthinking every sentence. 2. Think in English, avoid translation. Rather than translating from your native language, train yourself to associate objects, actions, and experiences directly with English words. For instance, see a cat and think cat instantly instead of your native term. Mental rehearsals. When planning your day or rehearsing a situation, like ordering food, think through the conversation in English. This helps your brain prepare suitable responses in real time. 3. Use voice notes and recordings, daily audio journals. Record short messages or daily summaries in English. Later, listen back to notice progress in pronunciation, vocabulary, and fluency. Self-critique. Use these recordings to identify areas for improvement, such as filler words, hesitations, or pronunciation issues. and work on them the next day. 4. Immerse yourself in English Change Your Device. Settings. Switch your phone, computer, or social media accounts to English. This small change forces your brain to engage with English words every time you check your device. Engage with media. Watch movies, TV shows, and YouTube videos in English. Practice speaking by mimicking dialogues, expressions, and tone. Read out loud. Whether it's a news article, short story, or script, reading out loud helps you practice flow and intonation. 5. Engage in 5-minute fluency drills. Set a timer. Choose a topic, like describing your morning routine or your favorite book, and speak nonstop for 5 minutes. Overcome perfectionism. If you get stuck, try to rephrase or describe the idea in another way. The focus is on keeping the conversation going. 6. Shadowing techniques. Mimic native speakers. Listen to short audio clips or segments from podcasts and repeat them, matching the speaker's pace, intonation, and emotion. Paced repetition. Repeat the exercise multiple times until you feel confident in the natural rhythm and flow of the language. 7. Join conversation groups and language exchanges. Real-life practice. Attend local meetups, online groups, or language exchange sessions to practice with other learners or native speakers. Feedback loop. Engage in discussions where you not only speak, but also receive constructive feedback that helps fine-tune your accent and fluency. 8. Embrace mistakes and learn from them. Positive mindset. Accept that mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. Every error is a learning opportunity. Self-compassion. When you mess up, take a deep breath and try again. Remind yourself that every fluent speaker was once a beginner. 9. Record and reflect on your progress. Keep a victory log. Jot down milestones, such as a full conversation without hesitation or learning a new expression. Revisit these logs to boost your confidence. Reflective listening. Periodically listen to old recordings to see how much you've grown and to identify patterns where you might still need practice. 10. Integrate English into your daily activities. Daily immersion. Adopt practices that tie learning to your daily routine. For example, follow an English recipe while cooking, or narrate your actions as you complete everyday tasks. Mindful moments. Dedicate moments in your day to simply think, interact, and consume content in English without the pressure of perfection. 11. Utilize technology and speech recognition apps. Use apps that provide real-time feedback on pronunciation. Repeating phrases until your speech is clear can be an interactive way to practice. Language learning platforms. Consider tools like online language courses or conversational AI that prompt you with speaking exercises and simulate realistic conversations. 12. Engage with English through entertainment. Watch and mimic. Choose episodes of TV shows or YouTube channels where the dialogue feels natural. Mimic the dialogues to not only practice pronunciation, but also internalize cultural nuances and expressions. Sing along. Singing your favorite English songs, even if you don't catch every word at first, can dramatically improve your fluency and memory for phrases. 13. Storytelling for fluency. Share your own stories. Practice telling personal anecdotes or funny incidents in English. Structured narratives. Try outlining a simple story before speaking. This helps build coherence and teaches you how to connect ideas fluidly in English. 14. Prepare for real-life situations, role-playing scenarios. Imagine common conversations, ordering food, asking for directions, or making small talk, and rehearse these scenarios aloud. Ask questions. If you're in a conversation and something isn't clear, don't hesitate to ask questions. This not only helps clarify communication, but also shows your willingness to engage. 15th. Mindfulness and relaxation. Calm your mind. Practice brief mindfulness exercises before engaging in English conversations. Deep breathing and focusing techniques can help reduce anxiety and clear your thoughts.